Hey y'all, Gabe the Nutritionist here, and I want to talk about mental health awareness. It's the month of May, and this is where we talk about mental health and how do you improve it and how do you support people that are suffering, right? So I come from everything through a nutrition angle, right? You may have a B1 deficiency, right? Thiamine. You could have a magnesium deficiency. That's a big one. A lot of people are, they don't have any magnesium. There's not much more in the soil, and I recommend people do a topical magnesium because you absorb it better than a scam like magnesium threonate or any other pill, right? Very small amount of people can actually absorb it pretty well, right? But the point is, right, of this video, right, is if you correct your nutrition, you're taking your supplements, you're eating pretty healthy, you're getting sunlight, you're exercising, you have a great life, you have a good family, you have awesome kids, a wonderful spouse, but you're just not happy, right? Either you're sad, you're depressed, you have some kind of anxiety. Something isn't right, You should be very happy. You should be enjoying the life that you're living, right? And I'm sure a lot of people are, have a lot of gratitude, but they just, they really don't have a way to show it or actually have a way to incorporate it into their life, right? But it's not because they're, ungrateful people or they're terrible, right? What happens is sometimes when, you're unhealthy, is you have a nutrient deficiency, right? You corrected, amazing, right? That's good. But there's another factor, and another factor I want to talk about is hidden factors that make you depressed, right? Make you sad, give you anxiety, that affects mental health. And we never ever really talk about this. It's a rare thing to talk about. So I think the number one thing I want to talk about, is going to be, mold, right? Mold can influence you through mycotoxins, these mycospores, right? If you live in a warm climate with humidity, maybe you've been through a flood, a storm, a hurricane, some kind of deluge, whatever, right? If you have water damage in your house, maybe your AC vents are, leaking and, you're getting mold in a filter and you're breathing it in through your ventilation. I mean, there's all sorts of ways this could happen, right? But the point is, this is a hidden infection that could impact your mitochondria, it could impact your brain health, and it could impact the way your body processes your neurotransmitters, right? Dopamine is very important for that pleasure, for that happiness. Serotonin keeps you even, keeps you balanced. Oxytocin, which I think we need more of, right? It's the love hormone, the bonding hormone. When, you feel that sort of sensation of gratitude towards people, right? On another level, we need more of that. A lot of people are too distant. They're too solo. They're very hermit-like, You got to spend time with people and your friends. You can't keep living from people so long, right? Because humans are social creatures. That's how we, survive this long. We build communities, we build towns, because we're sticking together, right? So you can't ever be a hermit. Even if you consider yourself to be an extrovert, hang out with people, right? Because you will, even if you hate people, right? You grow to love them and you get to appreciate them. But moving on, right? Not just mold can affect people, right? It can also be heavy metals, right? It could be lead, right? From lead pipes, cheap jewelry, spices from India that's contaminated to increase the selling price. This could be arsenic, right? From, bad city water. This could be from rice that was grown in contaminated soils. And even, mercury, right? From fish. The bigger the fish you eat, right? The more likely they're to accumulate mercury, which I'm sure you've heard of Mad Hatter disease, where people would go mad and kind of go crazy because, the hats, they made it with mercury, and the people just, they weren't sane. So the point I'm trying to make, right, is you may have potential exposure to some of these metals that affect your body's ability to, live and prosper. And always, right, it goes for your mental health. I'm not quite sure why the target is always mental health. But, I mean, there's other factors, right? Physical factors like fatigue and, joint pain and different things depending, right? But most often, this attacks your mental health. Third, right, I'm going to go with Lyme. The reason I say Lyme is because people who get Lyme disease, they often don't know it, Not everyone is able to see that bullseye rash. Or maybe it's going to be on your head, right, where you have a lot of hair. Maybe it gets you in the beard and you can't really see that red marking, right? So a lot of people can have these infections, or co-infections, right, that persist in the body. So it'll be like a low-grade infection, but you have it for a long time. and so on. And some people, right, they're taking methylene blue, right, that could affect your mental health. If you take too much of it, it could be very detrimental. SSRIs, again, I'm not a doctor, right, but some people, they quit cold turkey and they go pretty crazy, batshit crazy, and it really affects the family and, life and the way people function, right? Like you're a whole new person, kind of like lobotomy in a way. But I'm going to make a video where I talk more about this and I explain it to people, because if you're that kind of person, right, you should be happy, grateful, you have a pretty good life, but you can't feel it, right? Well, try to understand why this is happening, what you can do about it, and yeah, I'm going to post this video in a few days, but I just want to bring awareness, right, that when it comes to mental health, we don't talk about heavy metals, we don't talk about Lyme, we don't talk about, the lack of oxytocin from hanging out with people, we don't even talk about, nutrition, really. You go to a therapist, right, and they try and help you, right, but you need the building blocks to be happy, to feel better, for neurotransmitters. So yeah, I love y'all. Take it easy, be amazing. And at some point I'm going to post that video and, hope you learn a lot from it. Thank y'all. Have an amazing day and goodbye.